Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to The Disturbing Truth. Today we have some important updates. Alex will be talking and discussing about the latest breaking news concerning our members in belief, concerning our Ansar abroad in Malaysia who got arrested just for talking about their belief and their religion, their belief in the Ahmadi religion of peace and light with their family members. And so she will be highlighting the ongoing challenges faced by our members abroad. We will also revisit the topic we had last episode that we spoke about, this really important question, or life's biggest questions that people always wonder and ask. What is the purpose of our existence, right? And Jesus, he did say, when you find the truth, you will be disturbed. So we will go into these disturbing truths like we always do. I'm Jasmine Al-Mahdi. I'm here with Alex Al-Mahdi and with Sarah Al-Mahdi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. So yeah, Alex, we have some breaking news that you were going to share with us today.
Yeah, so we have this breaking news coming out of Malaysia at the moment. So, I mean, for a while, the members of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, they've been very persecuted in Malaysia, sorry. And this is something that's been going on basically since April 2023. So in April 2023, a few of the members of the religion, they staged this LGBT solidarity protest, which is basically just, because of these capital punishments that they were seeing happen to members of the LGBT community. And it's really at odds with the humanity first teachings of this religion. It's extremely unhumanitarian, and it's a human rights violation, that they were seeing over there. So ever since then, this, really put them in the limelight in Malaysia. They were in all of the press, and the members of the religion started getting arrested basically since then. And since then, there's been this real campaign, for the last year that's been getting kind of worse and worse. They've been condemned publicly by the religious minister in Malaysia, who accused the religion of going against the Islamic Sharia, as well as the Federal Territory Mufti's office, who labelled the teachings of the religion as heretical. And these people, they've spoken out against the religion so much. They've encouraged people to report friends and family if they believe in the religion. They've really heavily censored the religion online. Just basically this has just led to a wave of attacks and threats from the general public as well.
They have really focused on the members of the Ahmad religion and peace and light and on the religion a lot.
Yeah, they've definitely really, really targeted the members of the religion. So we found out yesterday basically that one of the members of the religion, who's actually a retired 60-year-old ex-firefighter, he'd for sure committed no crime. He's just a believer in the religion. His name is Zulkifli bin Abdul Ghani. And so basically his home was raided, and he was arrested. And then, he'd broken, despite the fact that he'd broken no actual laws, he'd just broken Sharia law, from the perspective of, these religious ministers. And, he had documents seized during this raid, which included the Mehdi's manifesto. And he actually received a 6-month prison term and a fine which was, worth around 800 English pounds. So this is really disturbing that this has happened, because he really literally did nothing wrong except, be a believer in the Ahmadi religion of peace and light.
And this is something that we noticed that a lot of our members, they do face in these countries that are Muslim, and they don't accept someone who they see as apostates, because people who believe in the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, they find them as being non-believers, right? And they apostated from Islam, and they believe in something totally different. And so these people our Ansar, our members in this belief, they've just been persecuted. They've gone through so much, and still ongoing. And we see it all the time. It's happening all the time. This is a topic we would love to talk about more, hopefully in the next episode.
I think we'll go into more detail on this topic tomorrow, because it's very important to cover all the details for sure.
And we'll have a guest with us. We'll bring over a guest who would give us a bit of more information about what's going on in Malaysia. as she's been knowing more about the details and what's happening, as she herself was there in Malaysia before she came here. Now that we've spoken a bit about this, we would like to go back to what we spoke about in the last episode. In the last episode, I'm going to have a little bit of a recap for those who didn't watch us last time. I thought I'll give a little bit of a summary. So what we spoke about last time was this mystical book, this book of Al-Haft Al-Sharif, that is compiled by Mufaddal ibn Umar, who is one of the closest, or one of the close companions of Imam al-Sadiq, for him his peace. And this was a book that has been hidden for a really long time. And we also mentioned that Abu Salih, for him his peace, is the one who actually translated this book. And this book, as we mentioned, does exist on our website, theahmadireligion.org. You can see it on the screen. And we would like to remind all the viewers as well that you can call us. And on the screen, you'll also find the phone number of the WhatsApp and the Telegram. Please call and ask any question that you have, and we will happily answer. We know that there's some issues sometimes with the internet connection. So if you find a place with good internet, you'll be able to manage to call us, and hopefully we can hear you. Yeah, so back to this book, Al-Haft Al-Sharif. It speaks about the beginning of creation. So we went into it and we spoke about how the first creation that God created was something from his shadow, and it was this veil that he created from his shadow. And in the Quran, we see that it's written, God doesn't speak except from behind a veil. So God had to create this veil in order that the next creation would talk to God through this veil. So the next creation was then something that is called the shadow light. And this shadow light is also created from God's shadow, right? And it's like of a consciousness. And the veil then in return, what did the veil do? The veil educated the creation that was created about God, because this creation didn't know anything. It just realized that it existed, and now it has to learn and realize that God exists. So it learned how to glorify God, right?
By God glorifying himself first.
Yes, through this veil.
Yeah.
And what happened after was, from the shadows was something else created. Well, something else was created. So the ghost world was created from the shadows. And then from that, the soul world was created. And it continues until we reach the physical world, how it was created. And so now we're here in this physical world today. And we're wondering, okay, so what's the meaning of this physical world? And we also went into how the book speaks about how God hid, right? He hid, and he hid behind this veil, okay? Because there was always a veil. So he hid behind a veil, and God would see, what will people obey me through this veil? So the story of Adam, we went into that and spoke about how the veil was not hidden first. Adam was there. God told Adam, you're going to be the one that everyone has to obey. You're going to be the caliph. And so what happened then? Iblis, he disobeyed. He didn't want to. And he didn't want to obey Adam. And he even made Adam fall. He made the veil fall. And so he thought that he could find a better veil than God found, right? And he wanted to say that, okay, God, let's just choose any other veil other than Adam. And this showed that God's creation was disobedient. And so that's how God hid. Okay. And as God hid behind the veil, he calls to the people, and the people who will respond will be the angels, and those who don't respond are the devils. Okay. And as much faith that this creation had, and as fast as they respond, that's what degree they would be put into. Now, this is the interesting part, right? The degrees, because this is what we continue talking about most of the time afterwards. And this was the test now for the people. They had to find God behind that veil. And this is the point of religion. Now we come to this point. What's the point of existence, right? This is the point of religion. You have to find that veil. You have to see where God is. And that's why we have this concept of religion is a man. Okay, so religion is a man. Why? Because the veil is then a man that that people have to follow, and he's the one who speaks of the religion of God.
Yeah.
And then people would recognize him and they would pledge allegiance to that veil. And it wouldn't be enough to worship, we said. You can't just worship without knowing who that veil is, right? You have to find that veil. And so Imam al-Sadiq, peace be upon him, he goes into these different degrees. And we explain that there is, first we have a disbeliever, and then we have the one who recognized the veil and recognized that this is someone from God, but they don't totally fully accept him.
They're like a shortcomer.
Yes, they're a shortcomer. And then we come to the first degree of a believer after that, which is a believer who Allah tested his heart for faith, right? So he tested his heart for faith. And then the next degree would be the believer who is at the rank of a prophet or a rank of an angel. Okay, and this would be a person who is in full obedience and submission to God, just like the angels were when they prostrated to Adam. They were in full obedience and submission to God when he told them to prostrate. And then the third rank would then be the rank of the Nuqab, or the chieftain, right? And they are 12. We mentioned that they are the leaders of those other believers that are in the rank of the prophet. And then we stopped there and we went back to the first rank that we spoke of. And the first rank, which was what? The believer whom Allah tested his heart for faith. And we said that the narrations mentions them to be 70 or 72. And we spoke about Moses and the believers that were with Moses, and they were 70 or 72. And they requested to see God, and God struck them and made them fall down. Right?
Yeah, so there's a narration basically that all these 70 or 72 believers that were with Moses that went up the mount with him, they were all prophets basically. And there's another narration that's talking about one of the companions of Imam al-Sadiq, from him his peace, called Abu Al-Khattab. So some say that he's a heretic, some say that he was like the closest companion. So he Abu Al-Khattab, he goes forward and he makes this rise, and he has the 70 or 72 individuals with him, and he gets martyred while fighting against oppression basically. And when he was told about this, Imam al-Sadiq, from him his peace, he swears by Allah, they were all prophets or messengers, including Abu Al-Khattab. So, you know, what he's saying, basically, the first degree of being a true believer, you've got the first degree of being a true believer, a tested believer, and then a prophet messenger. So the 70 or 72 that are with every prophet, messenger and companion, they're also described as being prophets and messengers themselves, basically, that at that rank. And then the best of them is the leaders, basically, the final rank of being a close believer, which is that like 12, that close circle, which is around every prophet and messenger. This is why we have like the 12 disciples around Jesus. So there's, you know, the narration about the 12 closest companions of the Qaim, their disciples, they obey him in all things. They do not doubt, they don't fall away. So there's narrations that state, obviously, the 313, they apostate at one point before they come back. But the 12, they don't. They like stay firm. They don't doubt. They don't leave his side. They remain firm, basically, the whole time. So Abu al-Sadiq, from whom his peace, said it's so he said, I'll just read a quote from him. So that's like the epitome of faith, to reach that degree of being a prophet, messenger, close believer that does not apostate and always sticks next to the Imam of the time. They don't take vacations, they don't take breaks, they don't sleep, their focus is him. So this is kind of like the highest rank, basically.
And it's interesting because you find these numbers keep appearing in the books with different prophets and messengers, whether it's the 12 or the 70, right? Too, or 72, right? So it's beautiful to see it, and how Abu Sadiq, from him his peace, is highlighting these people and showing how this Haft Al-Sharif, this book Haft Al-Sharif, is speaking about it and also highlighting it, right?
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's really like formulaic and almost kind of like geometry or something. Like we don't understand what's going on, but like, yeah, there's always these certain numbers
secret
around. Yeah, it's this energy. So the next rank is the degree of istifa, which is being chosen, basically. So the Quran states, verily God chose Adam and Noah and the family of Abraham and the family of Imran over all the worlds. So this is the degree, basically, of being from the progeny, so being from the Ahlul Bayt,
That's huge.
the people of the house, So, you know, after being the best of the believers, the only thing after that to like elevate to is to be from the Ahlul Bayt. So some companions like Salman al-Farsi, he succeeded in elevating basically to that level. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family said he is from us, the Ahlul Bayt, when he was talking about Salman. And Imam al-Sadiq, from whose peace, he quotes verses that Adam and Noah and Abraham and Jesus, basically he gives the indication that they all reach that rank of being from the Ahlul Bayt.
Yeah, because we know that Abraham, from his, peace be upon him, in the Quran stated that he got the rank of the Imam. Right after that, he was a prophet and messenger.
Exactly.
So he was a prophet and messenger, and then he reached the rank of an Imam.
Yeah. So as you stated already, Abraham was someone who was a messenger. He was a covenant bearer, and then through his journey, he reached the level of a imam. So it means that the journey always continues. You know, for every prophet and messenger, believer, it doesn't stop. Like as soon as you declare belief in the veil of your time, it doesn't mean that's it. You're just gonna stay a believer and you're gonna die a believer. You can actually advance, and that's the amazing part of it. You know, the hope that God's saying that you always have an opportunity to draw near to Him and keep going until you reach the rank you want to reach. It's what you choose to reach.
Yeah, like those chances, those ranks are all available to anyone. Basically, it's up to the people.
Yeah, and Imam Ahmad Hassan, from whom is peace, in the beginning of this call, always said to us all that those who wish to reach shall reach. So if you wish to reach the rank of the Ahlul Bayt, or any rank that is the closest to God, you just have to have that determination, you see. And it's within that determination, through your journey and submission to and obedience to the veil, is what gets you there. So I was like, in the video, he goes further on explaining after the ranks that, you know, he brings in this one of the secrets of God, and he reveals it because he's the riser and he comes with the knowledge, and that is the concept of the returned. And we've mentioned in previous episodes that the return is real and it means reincarnation, and that the 12th Mahdi, the 12th Imam, Imam Muhammad Mahdi, he is actually the reincarnation of the Prophet Muhammad. Peace be upon him and his holy family. And that was a huge revelation for us all. And it was a revelation that made sense. Because the Shias in narrations do state then, you know, in the beginning it's Muhammad, in the middle is Muhammad, and the end is Muhammad. And throughout his incarnations, throughout 12 Imams, he has come forth as in those bodies. So, and that also makes sense now, the hadith of King Abdullah in Hijaz, you know, and the Prophet Muhammad says, if you give me glad tidings of the death of Abdullah, and I shall give you glad tidings of the riser. So who's giving the glad tidings to us about Abu Sadiq? It's the Prophet Muhammad. And Prophet Muhammad is the one who narrated that hadith. So it would make sense that so then where is he? He says, I will give it to you. Me, Muhammad will give it to you.
And that's exactly what he did.
Yes, but in the form of what? The 12th Imam.
Yes.
So it's fascinating. And then the many things start making sense as the journey progresses. So what is this? Any of the prophets who have reached the rank of Imam are sent. So there's now this so now there's this concept of 12 Mahdis. After the Imams, the 12 Mahdis that come from Imam Mahdi. Imam Mahdi has reached, Prophet Muhammad has reached a level where he sends forth these Mahdis because they are his successors. So if somebody's reached a position of an Imam, he can also come back as a Mahdi. For example, now we can go back to Abraham. Abraham is an example. So Abraham and Noah and Adam and the likes of them, these Ulul Azm prophets, they did through their journeys eventually reach the rank of an Imam. So God has also bestowed upon them to return as one of these Mahdis that are to come. So they can keep elevating. So what does this mean? This means that we, as people, we can elevate to such high degrees, and this is done through our incarnations. Because one reincarnation wouldn't be enough. It's not fair. Like we've discussed this before, and I urge people to check out our videos, or the videos on our channel, or the Mehdi as a Peer channel about reincarnation. Because you'll need many reincarnations to fulfill that purpose, to reach that degree. Because what if you shortcome, like, okay, in one reincarnation, let's say you recognize the veil, and but you're a shortcomer. So you shortcome with that veil. For example, you see the veil, you recognize him, but then you doubt him, or you fall short in his position. And so then, because of that, what happens? Then you end up having to reincarnate again to complete that that round, so you don't make the same mistake you made before.
Yeah.
And this is so beautiful, because this is something that, as you said, we've been talking about a lot, but now we keep going into it and we're showing it over and over again, how you actually do have that chance. Because a lot of people, they think that they don't have this chance. It's not really something that can be reached. It's not a goal that can be reached. But here we find that in the Haft Al-Sharif, it talks about this, and this is the concept of how we are able to reach further. And because what's the purpose of just being stagnant and just stay and then why are you
then you
here,
might as well just die in that position you reached, then what is the need of reincarnation? What is the need of even that one round or a full life in that one round? So like I want to quote the Al-Haft Al-Sharif actually. So Mufaddal asks Imam al-Sadiq, peace be upon him, well, is there a level after that, after the progeny? Where would they go after the progeny? And Imam al-Sadiq says, yes, there is. Basically, after the people of the house, like after you.
There is a level, basically, there.
He goes, yes, there is. So we mentioned that the level of the Ahlul Bayt, that you can enter the people of the house, and that is like what happened with Salman al-Farsi, for example. He became of Ahlul Bayt. So, of course, Mufaddal asks, is there more to it? Is there a greater level than the Ahlul Bayt? Because for many, it would be like the highest of ranks, wouldn't it? But Imam al-Sadiq says, yes, there is. And that's the final degree. And that is a degree of the veil, the hijab. And that is, so basically, that is the degree that the Prophet Muhammad reached. When did he reach it? He reached it in his night journey. So what does that mean? He reached a position that where he dissolved with God, with God, and the only part of Muhammad that was left was just his existence, and he would switch between existing and then disintegrating into God. So that means he became what? God in creation. And then God in creation, what's his task? He has the affairs of the whole world. So then he is left with the affairs of all the world, and that's why now it would make sense why he would send forth the Mahdis.
This is just like in the beginning, when there was a veil that was created from the shadow of God, and then that veil was the one who spoke to the rest of the creation to teach them. So Prophet Muhammad now became that, right?
Yeah.
And he was doing the same thing. And as the conversation proceeds in the book, Al-Mufaddal, he asks Imam al-Sadiq, he says to him, like, okay, well, then if a believer, he reached the rank of the high knowing and he recognizes the veil and he submits to the veil, what happens then? Is he supposed to like worship in the apparent and do all these things and the prayers and fasting and all of those actions? And so the Imam, he actually answers something that might be really shocking to a lot of people, but he says, absolutely not. Absolutely not. When you've reached that rank, when you've reached that position, when you've recognized the veil and you're submitting and you're just like, you're all there. You're doing everything that you can. Your whole being is to God. Then those acts are not needed. They're not necessary. They don't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
Because in the Quran we find this verse, Abu Sadiq, he mentions it, and he says, in the Quran it says, and verily to you, Lord, is al-muntaha. Al-muntaha is what? The ending, the finality, the totality. Meaning that the goal is to reach your Lord. Your Lord is the ending.
The goal is to recognize the voice of God, basically.
Yes. And when you reach the Lord, when you reach God, what happens? The chains and the requirements of worship and all these things, they fall off, right? They become obsolete. You're not supposed to do them anymore. You don't need them because you've reached now God, right? You've reached the final, the ending. And now a believer who has reached the veil, he becomes freed. God frees him. And he has been completed, and it's done, right? So the chains of jurisprudence, they fall off. You don't need them anymore.
Yeah, you've achieved basically what those jurisprudence were trying to get you to achieve, which is to recognize the voice of God.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now the person goes from being a servant or a slave to a freed servant or a slave, right? And the master doesn't require from him any work anymore, because why? This work that is being done is a work for a shortcomer. The slaves, they are still like they need it. It's something that that disciplines a person. These acts of worship, that fasting, praying, giving charity. This is something to discipline a person to become someone who's going to obey and submit to God, right? And so we see here, that's why God, he makes it obligatory for the Muslims to do all these things. He tells them, you have to do all these things, otherwise you're out of Islam. You're not a believer. If you don't pray, if you don't do fasting, if you don't do these things, you will be a disbeliever. And so they have to do it until they reach a point when they recognize the veil, and then it's done. Yeah. They become a friend of God. They reach the final stage. And God allows him to enjoy life. Life becomes a paradise, okay? And because you become like the angels above. So you're in paradise, you're like the angels, and you're actually better than the angels, because the angels, they had the veil, and God said directly, this is the veil. Whereas here, it's not the same. God was hidden behind the veil. You wouldn't know who it is unless you follow obviously the law of knowing the hujjah, right? But if you don't, and God is not appointing directly, then you don't know. And so now that they are in paradise, what's haram, what you've learned is haram, becomes halal for you, because you don't have these chains anymore. And there's also the saying of, anything that you wish for in paradise, you'll be granted. So now if you reach paradise, anything you wish for will be granted, even if it was haram. And you see that the Quran even mentions things like, you'll see rivers of wine, right? Because it's supposed to be haram, but now it's halal in paradise, right? So this is a concept that is it's known, it's in the Quran, that when you reach paradise, you're going to have something that's haram for you normally on earth.
But you can actually basically reach that level whilst you're still on earth.
Exactly.
It's such an important point, actually, because like these apparent acts of worship, like the prayers and the fasting, they're seen by lots of people to be like the pillars of religion. But the reality is that God doesn't see it that way, and they're literally just existing as a way to get us closer to the veil of God. And if we carry on following these jurisprudence and like praying the 5 daily prayers, but we also reject the veil of God, the man who's appointed by God, then they're for sure they're for nothing. Like God doesn't recognize them, he doesn't accept them. They're all basically a means to an end. Because
in the end, who is it that makes you lose these chains? Who is it that allows you to be freed in the end? When you reach your final destination, it is the Imam himself. He's the one who's going to make these chains fall. And it happens by actions, not by words. It's not just by you saying, okay, now I am a believer, I submit. No, you have to show that you're submitting. You have to show by your actions. And it's not about the actions of worship. Now I'm fasting, now I'm praying. No, it's about now I'm submitting to the hujjah that God said he's going to be on earth. And because there's always an imam on earth, right? Otherwise, if you don't follow an imam, you're going to die the death of ignorance, right?
Exactly.
So Abu Sadiq, from his piece, he quoted it really beautifully. He said, God is always present on earth by veiling himself behind a man, and that is the totality and the true religion. So beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. So basically when the believer, he frees himself by obedience and worship of God, through the veil, and recognition of the veil, he becomes like the angels. So basically this is how humans can elevate, And so in the book Al-Haft Al-Sharif, Al-Mufadal ibn Umar, he asked the Imam if he knows anyone like this, basically, who's elevated to this level. And
Fascinating question.
And the Imam says, yes, there are. You've seen them and you've eaten with them. But, in the apparent, he doesn't realize it. They don't tell him basically because he hasn't reached that degree. So these people basically, they're practicing taqiyya. They're not like necessarily out in the open. But yeah, they reached that degree basically. And yeah, Imam Ali, he said if Abu Dhar knew what was in the heart of Salman, he would have killed him. And that's basically because, you know, Salman had reached this high degree. He'd reached this degree of the free. So he was able to do all of these things that, you know, in the apparent were actually haram. But for him, they were allowed. Which, yeah, the believers who haven't reached that rank yet, it's shocking for them. And yeah, so basically, Al-Mufaddal ibn Umar, in the book, he basically asks Imam al-Sadiq, so who has reached this rank, basically? And a man walks in and he stands behind him, and Imam al-Sadiq says, who is this? And Al-Mufaddal says, it's my brother, Abu Khattab. And then at this point, Abu Khattab, he reveals that he's Gabriel.
SubhanAllah,
yeah. And we know Gabriel, he's accompanying the veil in every day and age. And the hadith state that with the Qaim on his right and on his left are Gabriel and Michael and Raphael from behind him.
So he had actually realized here that this is not my brother. And on top of it, Al-Khattab, he knew that he was Gabriel. He was at that rank where he had gotten the knowledge that he's aware of who he is. And the Imam is allowing him to speak up and say, okay, now you don't have to stay in taqiyya, you can tell it.
Exactly, you know? And so Jesus in his time, he had beside him Moses and Elijah, we know from the scene of the transfiguration of Jesus. And yeah, and Gabriel, we know he was with all of the prophets and messengers. So basically the true unifiers and monotheists are ones who recognize where the veil is and obey the will of God through the veil. And this is, you know, that's the true meaning of monotheism, basically. Someone who is obeying God through the one man. They don't take religion from anyone else. And that's how you get to this, like, extremely high rank, basically, by this, like, submission. So there's only one God above and he only has one veil, one man. And that is the Imam of the time. That's the Adam of the time. That's why it's such, you know, this is why it's the whole of religion, basically. And this is why the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family said, whoever dies without finding the Imam of the time dies the death of ignorance, because it really is the whole of the religion. This is the only way that we can, you know, truly follow God. So Abu al-Khattab, having identified himself as Gabriel, basically he reveals to Al-Mufaddal and Imam al-Sadiq, he speaks about all the prophets and messengers he was with. You know, he says, I was the companion of Joseph, I was the companion of Moses, and he's like talking about all of his
incarnations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, if you think about it, it's like now that people know that their purpose in life is to reach the veil of God, it's to obey the veil of God, it's to essentially dissolve yourself in the veil of God. And that's the meaning of life. And it's actually a very beautiful meaning, because it's just Eden being played out all over again. So in Eden, you were once walking with God, you were with God, you could see God, you could hear God, and you could obey God openly, right? And then you fell from Eden, and they say it's outside of Eden is just the earth, where there's no supremacy of God. So now we're outside that Eden, and now we just have to return to it. And when you return to it, you'll have that certainty where God is worshipped in the open, where you can see God, you can walk with God. And to reach that, you have to go through these stages, as you already mentioned. And they're very important for people, and that's why we're here to wake them up. Abu Sayyid is here to wake mankind, because they're asleep, and they're asleep to their true purpose, and they're asleep to that there is a creator, and that creator is on, like, he's placed this screen between us and him, you know, on earth. And he just wants us to find him, because he's worthy of being like sought for, you know. Like you have to chase him.
And he is that treasure that was waiting to be found, right?
Exactly. So you have to look for him. Essentially, what are we trying to say? We're trying to say that, look, the second coming and the appearance of the Mahdi, it doesn't happen while you're sitting on your sofa, you know, or sitting on your prayer mat, or going to church, or making, you know, religion a part-time job, basically. Like it requires a lot of effort on your side. It requires action. It requires for you to get up. All the narrations, there's a reason. Like if you read the narrations carefully about the Mahdi, they all state, come to him even if crawling on ice. Break out a box if you're in a box. Like wherever you are, go to him. Meaning there's always this physical act you have to do. So it's not just like I believe in the Mahdi and I recognize the Mahdi.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna say, I'm just gonna do my 5 daily prayers and then just kind of.
Alhamdulillah, I heard about him, and that's it. But I'm gonna just sit back now and
wait until he does something and rises, and then whatever mind
expectation.
Yeah, people have expectation of how it's gonna be like, but it needs to be broken. Like I need to break it to the people. It's not gonna be like you expect it. You can't sit there and wait, because then you're gonna wait for a very long time and you're gonna miss your chance. And there's this hadith that says that opportunities, they're like clouds, they just pass by, and if you just allow that cloud to pass by, and it's going to be gone, and you're going to sit there and regret it the day you realize what you just allowed to pass. Exactly. And it's a really dangerous thing as well, because this is a great opportunity. We're living in a time where the Qa'im, from whom is peace, is with us here. He's shouting, he's calling to the people. He's saying, I am the veil of God. I am here. I have the words of God. I speak the words of God. You need to come. I need to save you. And he is warning the people, because he had the prophecy that he warned the people, and if he warns the people, it means there will be a catastrophe coming after. There will be a punishment. And now he's here. He's calling for the people, trying to save them. To save them to what? What is he calling the people for? To come to live in peace. What does Imam Mahdi come for? What do all the believers, the Muslims, the Shia, the Sunnah, they know Imam Mahdi is coming for what? To bring peace and justice on earth and stop the tyranny and oppression. And this is what he's calling for.
Yeah, and it's not done. He's not going to do it alone. Like as the narration state, it's the 10-313. It's the 313 supporters that join him. And he won't rise until these great believers are gathered and they're perfected. So basically, like the people, they're going on this, as Abu Saik said, this hero's journey. And Abu Saik mentioned this hero's journey like throughout his own journey. That's the purpose of a person, where they like go this full circle, where they have to perfect themselves and go through these levels of perfection, where they have to first find the veil, then they have to obey the veil, then they have to go through the ranks, which is like as a believer to a prophet, a messenger, to an imam, and then basically to become one of those chiefs that never apostate, that will never betray the voice of God, that will never leave the voice of God, and that they will never become that Satan, at the end, despite him doing all the works he did. I'm talking about Iblis here now. Even though he did all those works, at the end he just couldn't take that one command, and then he just lost everything. So you want to reach a level where you do not become like Iblis, where you reach a great level with God, where you do not leave God's side, to the point where he wipes over your head, and then he reminds you of who you are. And many people on this earth are someone, like there's so many souls. There's like somebody you can be someone. It's also in your hands. It's like, yes, there's things done in the atom world, but it's also in your hands. You can be as a vessel, take that step towards God, and know that He'll take those 10 steps towards you.
Well, he said, in a recent episode, Abu Sadiq from Him's Peace, he said that, this life is, whilst we've already had these tests in the atom world, like this life is a test of the body, basically, the ego. So, you could do like a good deed, you could become such a good believer, you could earn a good soul. You could reach that high rank.
Exactly. You can earn it.
It really is all in your hands. And, it's true, like what you were saying as well, we can't just say that we've recognized the veil. Like, that's not enough. We are obligated to actually go and find the veil and support the veil, because, what's the point? How do we reach this stage of paradise on earth if everyone just recognizes the veil and then just sits back and carries on doing what they're doing and supporting the tyrants? The whole point is that, if we're all obedient to the veil, then this is how, we actually, transform the world into this paradise, basically, into this place that, is completely free from suffering. And, in order to get to this stage, the only way that we can actually do this is by obeying God through the veil.
And I realize that for many people, this could be a really heavy topic to understand, that there's these degrees that you can reach, some like the degree of being a veil. This is a heavy topic because many people don't even know that this is the case. And they believe that you can't go further. You're where you are. You're just supposed to be like this servant. What I also want to add is that it's even though it's a heavy topic, for many it's also a beautiful topic, because now they know that there's hope. You can strive and continue striving and do that, and you can reach something really high.
Yeah, and it's like really up to you. And if you don't want to, you don't. There's no compulsion in religion. But then, as you said before, you'll fall into regret, because you'll see the fruits of those people's labor come to life, and you'll actually see it, and you'll see the divine just state happen before your eyes, and then you'll be like, wow, I could have been part of that. I could have been part of making one of those stones that built that whole nation. And it's unfortunate when we don't want people to go through that, especially those who have at least come to the rank of recognizing the Imam. This group of people specifically, those who recognize, like the disbelievers, okay, then they have to
because
go through the stages.
There's always going to be certain people who basically just outright reject. But for the ones who recognize and who have already accepted, it's really important to take that next step and become like a supporter and do like what you're soul wants to do, basically.
Because like imagine you recognize something and you see the okay, so now there's like, I imagine this rank as if like they see the treasure chest and it's open and the gold it's shining, so it's only opened a bit, but they see the shine from it, and they're like, I think there's gold in there. I mean, I can see it. And then they go up to it and then they shake and they can feel it, and they feel it's heavy, and they're like, wow, this is a treasure. But then they just leave it there and they don't do anything with it. I think it's insanity, and
that's
we
really
encourage
sad,
these people to do something.
And especially for the people who are just thinking, I could never do anything. Like, I'm not like,
of course
don't listen to that kind
That's
of like
Iblis's
thought.
whispers.
Yeah, exactly. Like anyone can take this opportunity right now to get closer to God.
And I want to also remind people that this is not about believing that I'm going to reach a rank and I'm going to be high, because Abu Salih, from his piece himself, he explains his story. He never was striving to be who he is. He never was striving to be the Qa'im. What he was striving to be was to be a good servant of God. And that's the key. You want to submit. You want to serve. That's what your purpose is.
In humility.
In humility. And God will give you what you deserve. He will give you that rank. So you're not searching for that rank, but you're searching to please God and to submit to Him. And then with that, God gifts you this rank. And it's such a beautiful gift in reality. And I'm so happy that I'm able to read from this book, Al-Haft Al-Sharif, that Abu Salih from his piece translated to English and is spreading to the four corners of the earth, so that people can understand that there is a way to life, and there's a purpose of life, right? And that purpose is to find that veil that is the veil of God, that person that God is speaking to. And so we are here with the Qa'im, Abu Sadiq, from his peace, and we have found that veil. And inshallah, in next episode, we will continue with another disturbing truth. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.